Okay, what's up guys? Today we are going to make some bread from scratch. And you may have most of the things that you need in your house right now during the quarantine to be able to make this. First, the most important thing you're going to need is some good flour. I use the Red Mills unbleached flour. You could use anything, but I found the best bread comes from this stuff. You're going to need some active dry yeast. This stuff is critical. Most grocery stores probably will still have this, and some grocery stores are still open. You can buy a jar of it like this, or you can buy packets of it. I think the packets are 1/4 ounce, and this is a 4 ounce jar. The other things you're going to need are just some sugar and some salt. So the very first thing you're going to need to do is get some warm water going. We're going to need our water to be between 110 and 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So first thing we're going to do is that. It's really important that you measure it, otherwise it can kill the yeast if it's not hot enough or too cold. So to do that, we have a thermometer that's actually made for making candy. You can use just like a mouth thermometer, or make sure you wash it first, or a meat thermometer, digital, or something like that. Okay. So in this recipe, you're going to need 2 cups of water, or I always do it by weight. So I have my digital food scale here, and 2 cups of water converted to grams would be 473 grams. So set your bowl on here and zero it. We're going to pour until we get to 473. Then you want to measure your water, make sure you're within range. If you're not, you want to wait for it to cool off. Reading about 118, so I'm going to wait just a few seconds here really, and then get it to go. It gives us just enough time to measure our yeast. For the yeast portion, you're going to need one of those 1/4 ounce packets, or you can use 7 grams. So, yeast here. Okay. 7 grams of yeast. You just kind of sprinkle it in there and let it sit on the surface for a second. And what you want to do with a little mixer is just kind of gently mix it around. Mix it up for 10 seconds or so. And you'll kind of see it bubbling and kind of working around. It's what it's supposed to do. Just leave it there. We're going to let this sit for about 10 minutes. The yeast has dissolved. Okay, you see that. So we have our warm water still, and we are ready to finish up the prep work on this. Not too much more we have to do. First thing we're going to do is add in our sugar and salt. You'll need 1 teaspoon of sugar and 2 teaspoons of salt. So add that in. Okay. Add that in. It's kind of more of a to-taste thing than anything. So 2 teaspoons of salt. Now you mix that up like so. Then next we're going to start adding our flour. So what you need to do is get your scale out again, or if you're doing it with cups, then you're going to add 3 cups of flour first, or 400 grams. That's on the recipe also that I'm going to post. It's important to always sift your flour with some sifter. This is kind of more of a strainer that I found. I'm not normally where I would make my bread, so see how this goes. See if that, add 400 grams. Yeah. Okay, 400. So then, you just take this whole deal. I just have the sifter sitting in the bowl over the water right now. I'm just going to sift that in like so. Flour in there. Okay. Then what we do is just mix this up lightly. It shouldn't be too thick yet because we still have a lot of flour to go. Total flour in volume is 5.5 cups, so 2.5 left by volume, or 372 grams of flour left by mass. So mix that in with your mixer like this. You can use an electric mixer also. You don't have to do it by hand, but I prefer it. Okay, so you have that kind of mixed up like that. Yeah, it's still going to be mostly fluid. Well, not mostly fluid, but it's not too thick yet. So then, back on the scale. Now 372 grams to go. So I'm just going to add some into my sifter, and I'm watching my scale as I sift the flour in. And as I sift it in, the weight is going to go up because I zeroed it right before I did this. So I'm just going to sift until we get to 372. Okay, we're at 372 there. Put the rest back in your bag. Up here. Now this part, you want to take your left hand if you're right-handed and put that on the edge of the bowl. And then with your right hand, you're going to mix. And it's important to do it this way so that you at least have one clean-handed turner bowl. So what I do is I just kind of get it going like this, and start dunking my hand in. You're going to move the flour all around inside your bowl, and I'm turning it with my left hand as I'm pushing the dough with my right hand. Once you get somewhere where it's getting pretty tacky, and what I do is set the bowl up here, my left hand, grab my flour, and pour some out onto your clean countertop, and then just grab your whole dough onto the counter. And get all around there. Okay, now we have this dough on our counter, but it's not ready to rise yet. And now what we can do is knead it for 10 minutes. We want to get all this flour worked in. If your dough feels too wet, then you can add more flour, and if it feels too dry, you can add a little bit of water. I'm just kind of pushing with my palms, turning it, and folding it in, and doing that again. Do that over and over again. Work it into the counter. You can continue doing this for, like I said, about 10 minutes until you have, smooth, elastic, and your dough will be a little bit sticky, but not too sticky. It should pretty much be elastic and smooth. We'll just keep working it like this. Okay, here we are. It's been 10 minutes of kneading, and we're back with our dough. It's ready to rise. Should be, you should be able to poke it and kind of spring back, and it should be pretty elastic like this. And so now what we're going to do is I'm going to butter a bowl and put it in there and let it rise for really about an hour and a half is usually what it takes, next to like a fireplace, or just in your house if you keep it warm enough. Around 70 degrees is good. Okay, so we've got our buttered bowl here. I'm just going to take the dough and throw it in there. Okay, our bread is done rising, and take it out of the bowl here. And here on the counter, I've got some semolina flour. You don't need to do this, but it helps if you put some semolina down or some cornmeal for the for like kind of a crusty bottom. And we've got the oven preheating to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. We're gonna let. Okay, the oven has finished preheating, and we have our dough here. There's a couple things you could do with this step. You could either cut it into 2 smaller loaves and bake 2 separate loaves of bread, or I think what I'm going to do here is just
bake 1 large loaf.
I needed to actually remake this entire batch because previously I had gotten fancy and tried to make 1 very large loaf. That turned out to be a total failure. When you make this recipe, you need to just cut it in half and make 2 separate loaves. I'm going to put this in the oven at 400 degrees. Also, you should definitely let it rise for really a full 2 hours is ideal. And then after rising for 2 hours as 1 large piece of dough, cut it into the 2 as you see here. Put it on your baking sheets and let it rise for another 30 or 40 minutes. I think is going to yield the best results. So we're going to put it in the oven and see how it goes. Okay. Bread's out of the oven. It's looking pretty good. Would have liked to have seen it rise a little bit more. Haven't cut into it yet, but it might turn out to be a little bit dense. Thing about baking bread is that every batch is different. So try it out and let me know what you think.